I'm not telling you you have to end your summer early or cancel whatever summer plans you may have, but it's one of the most wonderful times of the year. NFL is back. The Cleveland Browns are back. Training Camp 2025 in Berea is officially open for business. Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network begins now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. Hope everybody had a phenomenal weekend, but it is over and it's time to get back to business. The Cleveland Browns and their 2025 season is now set to begin. We appreciate everybody who comes to the OBR for all the great written content from our fabulous group of writers, and everybody who joins us here every evening on Browns 3D, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern with Browns 3D, and then, of course, other shows to follow, 7 o'clock tonight. So this episode ends. Go get a fresh pop, go make a quick sandwich, run on back, because the boys will be here. Almost all of the OBR staff will be popping in for a huge 2025 training camp special. Fred, Barry, myself, Pete, Brad, Casey. I even think we got Jack Duffin staying wide awake across the pond to join us all this evening. So everybody, make sure you come back at 7 o'clock. You are not going to want to miss this. What also you are not going to miss is the OBR.com website, and especially the VIP premium service. The VIP subscribers get exclusive access to our VIP premium forums, including Insider Central for premium scoops. Ask the Insiders, where Lane Atkins and our other writers answer all your questions. Lane by himself can be worth the price of admission, as you many know. OBR VIP stories and all the exclusive recruiting and transfer portal scoop from across the 247 Sports Network. It's been a long run. It's been a long run since the Cleveland Browns season ended in January in Baltimore against the Ravens. And hope springs eternal. And here we are setting to kick off another Cleveland Browns seasonal voyage. The topic in conversation, and there's going to be certainly some that are just not going to get the run, the respect, and the talk that they're going to. Because this Cleveland Browns quarterback situation going into 2025 is probably one of the more unique. And when I use unique, I am not using that any way whatsoever as a positive. This quarterback position for the Browns, nobody has any way it's going to go. There's a scenario you could probably make for each four of the guys involved. There's percentages you could probably put for each one of the guys involved about the way this breaks down as to who maybe is the starter, who's a backup. Of the four, who's not here come September 7th when this team kicks it off for real against the Cincinnati Bengals. And it seems every few days the chatter picks up for one of them, and maybe the chatter lessens for the other three possible candidates here for the Browns starting quarterback position. Dillon Gabriel right now seems to be getting a little love here yesterday into today. And it coming out that the Browns were really enamored by the processing speed of Dillon Gabriel with his play at Oregon. And certainly, when they started to meet with him and, try to orchestrate some new type of offensive philosophies to him and greatly grasped the information, was a quick processor and was quick to, go into action with the new information he had been learning. I'm going to preface all of this about the quarterbacks by just saying, I just want the team to win. Trust me, this isn't something I want to be right on. I could care less about whether or not I am right about who the Cleveland Browns quarterback is going to be for 2025. And also, to be completely honest and transparent, there's a good chance that this is a whole lot of conversation about a guy who's going to quarterback the Cleveland Browns for probably just the 2025 season. You can't ignore the fact that the Browns have 2 first-round picks next year. You just can't ignore it. And we wouldn't be having these conversations if anybody had the utmost confidence in one of these guys to just ultimately be the guy. Flacco, we know, is not a long-term answer. Pickett doesn't have a contract after this year. Dylan Gabriel was drafted in the 3rd round. Shedeur Sanders somehow became a day 3 pick. There's not one of these guys you can just point your finger at and basically just say, oh, well, it's going to go that way as far as any of them being a long-term solution. I've said many times, and this is how I feel about this still. If you think the Cleveland Browns want to be in the best position to contend, win some games, heck, might even make the playoffs here in 2025, then the person who should be the starting quarterback has to be Joe Flacco. Who else? Joe's got the track record. Not only does he have the track record, he's got the track record here with the Browns. 2023. We saw it all for ourselves. What he was able to do for this team. How his, incredibly strong right arm was a really good fit with the Kevin Stefanski system. Certainly didn't end well, as we all know. But if you're talking in realistic ways that this team could possibly contend, and certainly when you look at that first 6 games, which is a very difficult slate, you have the AFC North on the schedule. I mean, the NFC North on the schedule this year. They're an incredible division. Very, very good football teams. Even the Chicago Bears, who will be a much, much improved football team this year. There's a lot to it this year. There truly, truly is. The AFC East, of course, the Bills, Patriots will be improved. I think the Jets will be more successful. Dolphins could be a team that's maybe taking a step down. I'm not sure, but they certainly have the firepower there. And then, of course, you have your 6 games with the AFC North. So if it's going to be absolutely all out trying to win, it's got to be Joe. If Kenny Pickett is your guy in this scenario, I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to argue it. Again, this is the situation where this isn't about being right. It's about hopefully one of these guys actually turning out to, make this team competitive this season. Kenny Pickett's a good football player. Kenny Pickett is a team first quarterback. His situation in Pittsburgh obviously did not end well. The franchise just absolutely lost faith in him. Had a decent record. Played well as a starter. Didn't play great, played well. Was the majority starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2022 and 2023. As we know, those Steeler teams both went to the playoffs both those years. But you think if Kenny Pickett was legitimately viewed and thought of as a starting quarterback in the NFL, when Pittsburgh was done with him in 2023, there would have been a line around the corner competing for the services of Kenny Pickett. There were not. Flash forward 1 year. The Browns acquire for Kenny Pickett. Don't give up much for him. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a player that obviously the Browns, had seen enough to know it was enough. I've had seen enough to know it was not enough. I should say. So, and a pick swap. Again, it could be Kenny. It could. And when we started this all off, and we started here in January, and basically, flipping the script about this team needs to address the quarterback position and the quarterback room. And we told you in the infancy in January of the offseason, there really isn't an option out here. There's not. There was one long-term option, and unfortunately, he went number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. So for Gabriel, who's getting, it's kind of almost like The Bachelor or something, where it almost seems like each week one of these quarterback contestants is highlighted. And for Gabriel, look, the processing speed, the intelligence, whiteboard, watching tape, all that stuff is fantastic. But it does not necessarily equate to the point where that alone gets you the job or finds you success within the NFL. Just because you're an intelligent quarterback doesn't necessarily mean you're a very good quarterback. It's going to come down to what goes on between the white lines. And that's just kind of my concern. I think Dillon Gabriel, and again, hope to be wrong, I think Dillon Gabriel has peaked. And he was a great college football quarterback. Absolutely. No question about it. I just don't know, or I don't see that Dillon Gabriel is going to take these next steps to become a really good starting NFL quarterback. And anybody who listens to the show and obviously, reads my social media posts, Shedeur is, and I don't say it with a high confidence level, but if there's one person that can start at any point in this 2025 season, albeit a long enough term as the starter, to prove that maybe there is a long-term starter here, it is Shedeur Sanders. He's got the makeup. The situation is not going to get too big for him. He's certainly been coached and coached well along the way. He's played with really good talent. Everybody he threw to at Colorado are currently in NFL training camps. My issues were simple. Was not very athletic at all. Took way too many sacks. And way too many sacks when people wanted to attribute it to the poor offensive line play at Colorado, which was a fair counterpoint. There were times that Shedeur Sanders was just taking absolutely egregious, terrible sacks, and sacks that were, losing yards in the amount of over 20 yards. Absolutely cannot do that. That was my biggest concern about Shedeur Sanders and whether or not he would make it in the NFL. Well, the good news is the Browns' offensive line comes to camp and it looks like everybody's healthy. So obviously that is a strong point. It is also, an offensive line that is aging. So just because they're healthy doesn't necessarily mean that this group that was once a very, very legitimate offensive line group doesn't mean it's necessarily going to return to its top 5 form that it was in the early 2020s. Father Time waits for no man, as we all know. And some of us learn more and more every day. Of course, a lot of other things have to work if any of these quarterbacks are going to be able to play to the best of their ability. As my good buddy Matt Waldman says, Can they make the music? Offensive line, quarterback play, running game, passing game, 4 parts. 4 parts of the band. Can they all play in harmony? Jerry Jeudy was one of the better moves of the Andrew Berry regime to this point. The trade picked him up for next to nothing. Showed immediate faith in the player by giving him a contract extension. Paid immediate dividends right out of the gate in 2024. And all the success in 2024 was with quarterbacks who were not even going to camp with the Browns here in 2025. So even Jerry Jeudy's monster year could not make these guys look better than they are. Or better than they were, I should say. That passing game is certainly going to need help. No question. David Njoku producing more like he did in 2023 as opposed to 2024 certainly would be a huge, huge win for this offense overall. Cedric Tillman, now in year 3. And it seems like we don't really talk about, the year 3 wide receiver breakout. It used to be something. There's always been those trends that we've always talked about in sports. And that was always a big one with football. It's kind of getting poo-pooed now because these guys are so good at such an early age. A lot of times teams just ain't got the patience to wait for somebody in 3rd year. But for a 3-week stretch last year, Cedric Tillman looked like it was all going right. 3-game clip, 7 receptions, 95 yards, and 1 touchdown per. That was the average for that magical 3-week stretch last year for Cedric Tillman. So it's in there. So it's not a question of the ability. For Tillman, again, it's not a question of the ability. It's more of a question of the consistency. Week in, week out, 17 games, 1, 2, 3 years in a row. I don't know why people. I guess I think the reason people don't prop up Diontae Johnson enough is probably because maybe they just don't think he's truly committed. And when in, a season and change, you go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 organizations. One of those organizations twice. You do that in a little more than a season. It's probably pretty easy to wonder why people don't have much faith in you. And again, I've always called these guys, 2-type players. It could be for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, who knows? But if Diontae Johnson can just get out of his own way and just worry about playing ball, it will turn out to be a very, very strong acquisition for the Cleveland Browns. It always doesn't bode well, though, when you're the only team in the league possibly talking to a player who's on the market. So obviously the bridges were burned by Diontae Johnson. Truly needs to right himself, gather himself, and just stay consistent on playing ball. Certainly excited for Harold Fannin. Turned 21, I believe, yesterday. So obviously just a kid. And it's always tough when you are talking about tight ends in the NFL. Brock Bowers absolutely was the anomaly. He's not the normalcy. And then you factor in the fact that, Fannin played in the MAC, is still so young. It's hard to truly believe or know what you think Harold Fannin can do in year 1. Certainly the Browns enjoy and always have the 2 tight end sets. When he's had decent enough tight ends, it's been a huge thing for Kevin Stefanski, and it's something he's always just loved to run the offense through. So Fannin, absolute wild card. And then who else could step up? And, the guy I think that everybody wants to point the finger to and believe could be that guy is Jamari Thrash. Should have played a ton more last year. No reason that they were not letting Jamari Thrash play more last year. So there could have been valuable developmental time for Jamari Thrash last year that this team unfortunately just did give him. Waste. It was a waste in my opinion. But now you get, obviously, to the running game being this part. And certainly in limbo right now. I pick invested in Quinshon Judkins. There is no updates on anything involving his legal situation. Like there's literally no updates. Like nobody knows when the next court date is, any of this stuff. What we know is that training camp is open. Quinshon Judkins should be there. But with all that is going on, he is not. So really hard to have any faith, in what will be Quinshon Judkins' freshman rookie season without getting further information, of course. If the offensive line is intact and whoever is behind center plays well, it's not crazy to think that Jerome Ford cannot produce. He was the best running back on this team in 2023 and 2024. Fact. Certainly polished and proven as a receiver, former high school wide receiver. His receiving skills certainly have always been something that have been a strength for Ford. There's a couple scenarios with Dylan Sampson. I mean, you could try and have Sampson be, the feature back for you. 15 to 20 touches a week. I think a lot of that would have to do with how the team was doing in terms of wins and losses. There's no reason to just get him beat up and battered with a heavy workload as a rookie unless the team is successful. Sampson can play. You guys heard me talk about it all draft process, how excited I was when they actually finally did draft him. I think Dylan Sampson's a pretty special talent. But it is kind of hard to say, oh, well, this guy was drafted in the 4th round is going to be a game changer for this team within this office. I'd love to be that guy, but, he was a 4th round pick. But athleticism, size, it's not size probably. I mean, he's built well enough. I think actually the fact that he is 5'9" actually helps him, certainly with the way this Browns offense works. Allows for him to, cut back behind the pulling guards, find daylight and just go. This offense has just got so many questions. And this offense has so many things that need to go right, and they need to go right collectively. The offensive line, has to be strong in the run game. Certainly is going to need strong pass protection. If it's Joe, you're talking about a 40-yard guy. Gabriel and Sanders are rookies. If Pickett is going to get his football confidence back, it's hopefully it most likely will come behind an offensive line that is good to go. A strong unit. What they get from the running game is just another question. Do other people step up outside of David Njoku and Jerry Jeudy and become legitimate contributors within a passing game? These are all real and legitimate questions, and there are a lot of them when it comes to this Browns offense. I think the defensive side of the ball I feel better with, and that's even with things like, not really knowing who your free safety is going to be, or, dealing with one of your team leaders and best players on defense not being a part of this team in 2025 and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. The faith is certainly high in Isaiah McGuire, extremely high. And if his pass rush ability can start to creep up and match, and even when I'm talking about this, I'm probably meaning actual production with McGuire. You know, can he get to 7.5 sacks? That's the number I keep saying. If he gets to that number and continues to play the run the way he does, you've got your bookend to Myles Garrett for a while. And McGuire, now in year 3, I think turns 24 at the end of July. He's a guy you want to gamble on right now. He's a guy that you think can bring some legitimacy to this defense. Alex Wright, back on the last year of his rookie deal. Always a guy that, with Alex Wright, you thought it was getting there. And then, something slowed him down. But certainly brings versatility as a guy who can play on the inside, or certainly a guy who can play on the outside. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was a guy I loved during his draft cycle. Now, in the last couple of years of playing, stand up down in Tampa, going to get back to a more traditional hand in the dirt here in the even 4-3 front for the Browns. I would think he at $4 million, as opposed to Agbo, who they moved on from. I think that should work out as a win for them. I think Tryon should be a better player for them than Agbo was. Without JOK and without trying to put too much pressure on Carson Schlesinger, I think this Browns linebacker room right now is kind of more like the Browns linebacker room was in the beginning of the Berry and Stefanski regime. I think it is a group that sees multiple guys play. Hicks, Bush, Schlesinger, Jerome Baker. All these guys are viable options. And it may take 4 or 5 guys to hopefully fill the void that this team is missing without Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And to be fair, there is the potential here for Carson Schlesinger. Legitimate high potential for Carson Schlesinger. I truly think he could be on a JOK level. Is that in this year? Maybe. His tape at UCLA was incredible. And, once you even got deeper into the story and you realize basically, he was out in Westwood, California, not doing much, but playing special teams his first couple of years. And you saw the impact that he brought to his defense last year, leading the nation in tackles. He's got all the goods. He's got it all. And he turned it into stardom. Corners comes down real quick, easy. Newsome and Emerson. Contract years. Do they step up? Certainly possible. Safety room, Grant Delpit, a bunch of other questions. The Browns training camp is open. The kids are here. Vets are in tomorrow. Field Wednesday. Let's boogie. I'm starting to see a bunch of people already on social media that kind of already ready to bury this team. Can we at least start? I mean, can we at least make it to maybe preseason games before we start burying the 2025 possibility of success for this team? And again, I don't need to be right about the Browns quarterback situation in 2025. I just want somebody to step up and seize the opportunity. Make sure you stick around here for 7 o'clock. All of us will be here, whether you'll be our training camp preview. Always some fun. I can or I cannot promise that spam will be involved again. But make sure, of course, that you get the VIP premium subscription over at the OBR. Fantastic, fantastic stuff for you guys with that insider package. All the latest rumors that roll through the OBR rumor mills, first published there for you all. Very, very economical purchase. Great things to be had. So make sure, of course, that you check all that out. Make sure you subscribe to OBR over on YouTube. And of course, OBR over on Twitch. We'll see y'all in a little bit. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network. And we will talk to y'all later.